Let's be honest, decluttering isn't always fun. It's not like the home makeover shows where everything magically disappears in an hour, leaving you with a perfectly organized space. Nope. In real life, decluttering can be emotional, exhausting, and sometimes downright annoying. But here's the thing, it's worth it, because on the other side of all that stuff is a lighter, freer, happier version of you. So today we're cutting through the nonsense and getting real. These are the 7 brutal truths about decluttering that every senior needs to hear. Buckle up, it's time for some tough love. 1. You're probably keeping stuff for the wrong reasons. Be honest, have you ever picked up an old gift, a piece of clothing, or some random trinket and thought, I don't actually like this, but I should probably keep it? Maybe it was a wedding present from years ago, an old souvenir from a trip you barely remember, or a dress you haven't worn in decades. But still, there it sits, taking up space, because getting rid of it feels wrong somehow. That's not logic talking, that's guilt. We keep things not because we love them, but because we feel obligated. Maybe it was expensive, maybe it was a gift, maybe we've had it for so long that parting with it feels like betraying a memory. But here's the hard truth, if something doesn't serve you, bring you joy, or have an actual purpose in your life, it's clutter. My friend Linda had this exact problem. She had a full set of fine china that had been sitting in her cabinet for 40 years. And here's the kicker, she hated it. She never liked the pattern, never once used it for a special occasion, and every time she opened that cabinet, all she saw was wasted space. But because her mother had given it to her, she felt like she had to keep it. One day, after much convincing, she finally donated it. And do you know what happened? Nothing. The sky didn't fall. Her mother's memory didn't disappear. The only thing that changed was that Linda suddenly had an empty cabinet and a whole lot of relief. That gift had already served its purpose. It was an expression of love at the time, but it didn't need to take up real estate in her home forever. Let go of the guilt. If something doesn't fit your life anymore, it's okay to say goodbye. The memories don't disappear. When you let go of an object, they live in you, not in your clutter. 2. The more stuff you have, the more stress you have. We like to think clutter is just a space issue, but really, it's a mental issue. Every extra thing in your home is another thing to clean, another thing to organize, another thing your brain has to keep track of. The more stuff you have, the more time you spend maintaining it, and the less peace of mind you actually get to enjoy. Ever spent 20 minutes looking for your car keys, or opened a closet door, only to feel completely overwhelmed by the mess inside? That's not just annoying, it's draining. Every single time you struggle to find something, every time you have to shuffle through piles of stuff just to get to what you need, it's a little bit of extra stress added to your day. And over time, that adds up. My neighbor Bob learned this the hard way. He had a garage so full of maybe useful someday items that he couldn't even park his car inside. Old tools, broken appliances, half-finished DIY projects. Every time he opened the garage door, he felt defeated. He kept telling himself, I'll get to it later, but later never came. Until one day, out of sheer frustration, he started clearing things out. He donated the tools he never used. He got rid of the broken gadgets. He sold the furniture he swore he was going to fix someday, and for the first time in years, he parked his car in the garage. His first thought, why didn't I do this sooner? The relief was instant. It wasn't just about making space, it was about making his life easier. Clutter isn't just about physical objects, it's about how much time, energy, and mental space those objects take up. The less you own, the less you have to clean, organize, and stress over. The goal isn't to live like a minimalist unless you want to. It's simply to create a space that works for you, not against you. 3. Your kids probably don't want your stuff. Brace yourself, because this one might sting a little, but it's the truth. Most of the things we're saving for our kids or grandkids, they don't want them. We hold on to furniture, china, collectibles, family heirlooms, convinced that someday they'll appreciate them. That dining table we bought when we first got married, the heavy, ornate dresser that's been passed down for generations. The vintage silverware set that's been sitting in a drawer for decades. We imagine our children eagerly taking these things into their own homes, proudly displaying them as a way to carry on the family legacy. But today's younger generations live differently. They're moving into smaller spaces. They're embracing minimalism. They're living in a world where digital memories have replaced physical keepsakes. The things that meant so much to us may not mean the same to them. A woman I know, Carol, learned this the hard way. She had spent years carefully saving antiques from her mother's home, convinced her daughter would treasure them just as much as she did. One day she finally asked, "Would you like to take these for your home?" And her daughter hesitated before saying, "Mom, I love you, but I don't have room for all this." That was a wake-up call. Carol realized she had been holding on to things for someone else, someone who didn't actually want them. It was tough at first, but she slowly started letting go. She sold what she could, donated what she couldn't, and kept only the pieces that truly meant something to her. And in the end, her home felt lighter, and her daughter felt relieved that she wouldn't have to sort through it all someday. Here's the truth. Your memories aren't tied to objects. The love you share with your family isn't in an old dresser or a box of silverware. It's in the time you spend together, the stories you tell, the experiences you share. Instead of assuming your family wants something, ask them. If they say no, that's okay. It's not a rejection of you, it's simply a different way of living. And by letting go of what's no longer needed, you're making life easier for everyone. 4. Just in case is the fastest way to drown in clutter. The famous just in case excuse. The sneaky little phrase that convinces us to keep things we haven't used in years. We tell ourselves that box of extra cords might be useful someday, that spare lamp could come in handy, that drawer full of mystery keys must belong to something important, and before we know it, we've got an entire storage closet packed to the brim with items that haven't seen the light of day in a decade. My cousin Dave was the king of just-in-case thinking. He had an entire room, yes, an entire room, dedicated to things he might need one day. Old tools, outdated appliances, boxes of random screws and nails, stacks of papers so old they were turning yellow. When he finally decided to declutter, we did an experiment. We sorted everything into 2 piles, things he had actually used in the last year and things he hadn't. The result? Out of an entire room full of essential items, he had used exactly 1 screwdriver. That's it. The reality is we hold on to things out of fear that if we let them go, we'll suddenly need them and regret our decision. But think about it. How many times have you gotten rid of something and actually needed it later? And if that rare moment happens, could you solve the problem another way? Borrowing, repurposing, or even buying a replacement if absolutely necessary is often easier and cheaper than dedicating an entire room or even an entire house to hoarding things for an unlikely scenario. Letting go of just-in-case clutter doesn't mean being unprepared. It means trusting yourself. If you truly need something down the line, you'll figure it out. But drowning in unused stuff, that's a problem you can solve today. 5. Some of your stuff is actually making life harder. We don't always see it, but clutter can quietly turn into an obstacle course, making daily life more difficult than it needs to be. Sure, that pile of books on the floor might seem harmless, but when you're navigating a room in the dark, suddenly it's a tripping hazard. That packed kitchen full of gadgets you never use? It means more time spent rummaging through cabinets just to find the one tool you actually need. And let's not even talk about the overstuffed closet. You know, the one so full of clothes you can't actually find anything to wear. I once helped my Aunt June reorganize her home after she had a minor fall. At first, she didn't think clutter was the problem. But as we started clearing things out, we noticed a pattern: stacks of old magazines making hallways narrower, extra furniture crowding the living room, kitchen counters so full there was barely any space to cook. She had kept things because they felt familiar, but what they were actually doing was making her home harder to navigate. The moment we cleared out the excess, everything changed. She wasn't dodging piles of stuff anymore, and simple tasks, like finding a favorite sweater or making a cup of tea, became easy again. Decluttering didn't take anything away from her life. It gave her back control of her space. The truth is, the more stuff we have, the more energy we waste managing it. Every extra item is another thing to clean, organize, and work around. And as we get older, what we really need isn't more things, it's more ease. Decluttering isn't about throwing everything away. It's about creating a home that works for you, not against you. A home where you can breathe, move, and enjoy your space without obstacles in your way. And trust me, once you clear that cluttered closet and finally see everything you actually love and wear, you'll never look back. 6. Sentimental clutter isn't love, it's weight. This one is tough because some things truly do carry deep sentimental value. A wedding dress, letters from a loved one, gifts from long ago, they all hold emotions, memories, pieces of our past. But when we try to keep everything that has meaning, something strange happens. It stops feeling special. Instead of treasured keepsakes, it just becomes a burden, weighing us down, making our home feel more like a storage unit than a place to live. Marge knows this all too well. When her husband passed, she found herself unable to part with anything of his. His clothes still hung neatly in the closet. His books lined the shelves, untouched. His chair remained in the exact same spot, as if he might walk in and sit down at any moment. She even had a whole box filled with old love letters, anniversary cards, and little notes he had left over the years. For a while it felt comforting, but over time she realized that instead of holding on to him, she was holding on to stuff, and the stuff wasn't making her feel better. It was keeping her stuck in grief. One day she made a decision. She picked out the items that truly mattered, a framed photo from their favorite vacation, a sweater of his that still carried his scent, a couple of letters she could reread whenever she missed him most. The rest, she let go. His clothes were donated to a local shelter, where they could keep someone warm. His books found a new home at the library. His chair, given to a friend who needed one. And the strangest thing happened, she felt lighter. She didn't lose the love, the memories, or their life together. She simply made space to keep living her own. Holding on to a few meaningful things is a beautiful way to honor the past, but keeping everything out of guilt or fear doesn't honor anyone. It just keeps us trapped. Let go of the weight and hold on to what truly matters. 7. Decluttering is an ongoing process, not a one-time event. A lot of people think of decluttering as this one big job, something you do once, like a deep spring cleaning, and then you're done forever. But that's not how it works. Life keeps moving, and so does stuff. You clear out one area, and before you know it, new things have found their way in. Junk mail piles up, gifts arrive, old habits sneak back in. If you don't stay on top of it, clutter creeps right back into your home, like an uninvited guest who refuses to leave. That's why Sam came up with his own rule. For every new thing that comes in, something old has to go. Bought a new jacket? Time to donate one. Got a new kitchen gadget? Find one that's collecting dust and let it move on. He doesn't wait until his house is bursting at the seams. He makes decluttering a habit, not a massive, exhausting event. And you know what? It works, because decluttering isn't about doing a big dramatic purge every few years. It's about making small, mindful choices every day. It's about stopping clutter before it even starts. Instead of letting mail stack up, sort it the moment it comes in. Instead of stashing things in a maybe later pile, decide now if you actually need it. Instead of waiting until your closet is overflowing, make it a habit to regularly let go of things you don't wear. Once you start thinking of decluttering as part of life, instead of a one-time project, something amazing happens. Your home stays lighter, easier to manage, and filled only with things that serve you. No more massive, overwhelming cleanouts. No more battling piles of stuff that suddenly feel like too much. Just a home that works for you, not against you. So forget the idea that decluttering is something you do once and never again. Treat it like brushing your teeth. You don't do it once and call it a lifetime achievement. You do it regularly because it makes life better. And trust me, your future self will thank you for it. So, there you have it. 7 brutal truths about decluttering that no one really talks about. The good news? You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to throw everything out. You just have to start. Even one small step today is a step toward a lighter, freer life. Which of these truths hit home for you? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, hit like, subscribe, and let's clear out that clutter together.